The Clean Power Hour is brought to you by CPS America, the maker of North America's #1 three-phase string inverter, with over 6 gigawatts shipped in the U.S. The CPS America product lineup includes three-phase string inverters ranging from 25 to 275 kW. Their flagship inverter, the CPS 250-275, is designed to work with solar plants ranging from 2 megawatts to 2 gigawatts. The 250-275 pairs well with CPS America's exceptional data communication, controls, and energy storage solutions. Go to chintpowersystems.com to find out more.
More solar is better for the world, period. And there's definitely a place for, if your roof doesn't need to be replaced, traditional solar has its place. Bolt-on or rack-mounted solar has its place, right? I want to see a world where there's just more solar on roofs, period, right? What we think at GAF Energy is that dual value of Timberline Solar being not only a roof covering, so there's no shingles underneath it, it is the shingle, plus an energy generating product, so it's giving value back to you other than just covering your home, is the real key.
Are you speeding the energy transition? Here at the Clean Power Hour, our hosts Tim Montague and John Weaver bring you the best in solar, batteries, and clean technologies every week. Want to go deeper into decarbonization? We do too. We're here to help you understand and command the commercial, residential, and utility solar, wind, and storage industries. So let's get to it. Together we can speed the energy transition.
Today on the Clean Power Hour, building integrated photovoltaics. Welcome to the Clean Power Hour. Check out all of our content at cleanpowerhour.com. Give us a rating and a review on Apple and Spotify, and please tell a friend about the show. That is the best way you can help us speed the energy transition. Today, GAF Energy. GAF is a well-known building products manufacturer, famous now for their Timberline Solar product. It is a roofing shingle that makes electrons from photons. Welcome to the show, Rey Holmes of GAF. He is the VP of Product, and Sean O'Reilly, the COO of Smartroof. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Really appreciate it, Tim, for bringing me out. Super excited for it.
I really appreciate you guys working with me on this. I was, thrilled to get GAF on the show, but I wanted to have a contractor also present for the interview because it really, it's a game changer to know how a product is received in the market by the installers. And that has been, I think, a real impediment to the spread of building integrated photovoltaics with some of the other products like Tesla and others. But Tesla was kind of the shining star, and they launched a very flashy launch a few years ago now, maybe 5 years ago. I don't know. Ray knows because he used to work for Tesla, but they've really gone nowhere fast. And you guys at GAF Energy launched this tile, a roofing shingle, that is installed with a nail gun by roofers. And that is the game changer. So let's give our listeners a little background on yourselves. Why don't we start with you, Sean, since you're the installer, and you can speak to all of our installer listeners out there. Why did you get into the roofing industry, and tell us a little bit about your experience with GAF Energy.
Awesome. Happy to be here. Thanks to GAF Energy for inviting me along, and Tim, thanks for having us on. So I've been with Smartroof for 4.5 years. We've been in business about 7 or 8 years, and fast growth, and always with the vision of we do a good amount of roofing, but always with the vision of getting into solar. And how did I get into the business? Well, the Smartroof was started by a couple of my childhood friends, good buddies of mine who had some background in the residential roofing sales, and kind of went off on their own, and then got me involved in it. I do have a background in contracting. My dad was a contractor, so I was building houses when I was a kid, so I have pretty good familiarity with the trades, and kind of went in all in on roofing and solar in the last 4.5 years. And so just with Smartroof, we've had a very strong relationship with GAF on the shingle side, and so we were kind of but we always had a vision of innovating, one of our core values, and how do we change the roofing industry. And GAF Energy, used their contractor network, said, hey, who are the people that are like-minded in the sense of changing the industry, growing, disrupting, so to speak, and looking for new ways to do things. And we were growing and looking for new ways to do things, so it was kind of a perfect fit. So they approached us, and we were thrilled to be able to kind of talk through what they had coming down the pipeline, and give them a little bit of feedback through the whole process, and be part of the beta program. And they've done a great job of, I'd say, asking the right questions on how to be successful. Who works with the homeowners, who brings the product to market, and it's contractors. And I think that's what they've done a good job of. So, hey, how do we work with the contractors to make this something that works for them? Not, we got a great idea and everyone else needs to buy into it. Hey, what do you guys need to make this work? And talking through it with companies like ourselves, and being able to think through it from the contractor's point of view, so that we can go and feel confident about providing this a product. And obviously, GF has years of service behind them, and GF Energy has very similar service providing and customer service and warranties and stuff.
Great, thank you. And Ray, please introduce yourself and how you came to GAF Energy.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. So I'm Rey Holmes, as you mentioned, VP of Product at GAF Energy. My solar journey starts, almost 15 years ago now. Studied electrical engineering undergrad with a focus on solar fabrication. So all the way from the solar cell, doping, understanding the technology behind it, and just got really enthralled with kind of the magic, I'll say, of solar. Right? I think you can share in that passion of like everything else, burn something, create steam, turn it on a turbine. Solar is the only thing where it's like, I don't know how this worked or who figured it out first, that this piece of material, if it hits sun, electrons flow. But the fact that it's been able to harness energy and generate electricity is kind of a magical thing. Came out the gate at school, started off in sales, actually, so I have a huge appreciation for solar selling, knocking doors in California, selling solar door to door, just getting a real feel for kind of the brass tacks of how this gets deployed and out there. Made my way into SolarCity, and that's where this concept of a solar roof, a different way to do solar, kind of came up. The massive scaling and the understanding that, hey, maybe solar roofing is really the future of solar. Fast forward through the Tesla days, which I'll get to later, to GF Energy in 2019. And Sean and I were reminiscing about that experience of truly the difference maker for GF Energy is around the focus on the roofing contractor and being able to harness and leverage the fact that there are 5 million roofs that go up every year, right? There's 10,000 plus roofing contractors that have been in business for decades plus that are doing these roofs. And so how can we take the advantage of GAF and that tight contractor network across that massive national footprint and create a product that could move through that channel, right? As Sean mentioned in Smartroof, they have a great relationship with GAF. GAF's responsible for 1.5 million roofs every year, right? They're a dominant shingle brand, which is the dominant covering for roofs in the residential space in the US. And so our approach and the principle is around solving that solar problem, but through roofing, and really being in tune with our roofing contractors and taking their feedback and prioritizing that. I had a quote at some point in time around the Timberline Solar product of, you can have the best product in the world, but if you have no pathway to market, you're bottlenecked by either the labor, manufacturing, et cetera. It doesn't matter if you have the best product, it'll never scale up. And so really focusing on leveraging the scale that our roofing contractors, especially Smartroof, bring to the table in terms of the roofs they touch, the expertise they have, and then solving for all the technology features that need to be true to make it approachable for their teams and to make it manufacturable at high volume, right? And so I think that's been the difference maker and kind of the reason why I've been so passionate about this over the past 4 years and bringing this product to market, right?
Excellent. So, I fully embrace building integrated photovoltaics as the future of solar energy. Eventually, we will be cladding all of our buildings soup to nuts, right? Walls, windows, and of course the roof in PV of some form or another. The only question is, what exact form will it take? And you see that BIPV is further along in Europe. There are more products on the market, more experiments being done, and it's a wonderful thing. Here in the U.S., we're ironically, 5 to 10 years behind our European brothers and sisters, and now we're catching up. And it's game on, and we have wonderful legislation with the IRA, and this 10-year 30% ITC investment tax credit. You can get 30% off of your solar project if you're a homeowner or building owner or asset owner, and that is a game changer. So when you guys are out there, Sean, selling roofing projects, whether it's new construction or re-roofing, what is that conversation like? That is something I'm very, very curious about. How are homeowners responding to the GAF Timberline Solar Shingle?
Yeah, good question. It's new, so that's exciting. People want to be certain types of people want to be, leading the neighborhood or leading the community in tech and innovation. And but it's also, it's a new look. It's sleeker. But our conversation, so a lot of people, it gets a lot of interest right off the bat. And we just need to be able to talk about it. But the conversation is very much, hey, you need to replace your roof. This is the perfect time to go solar. That's it's a no-brainer. This is the time to do it, right? We could do it all at the same time, and you could do rack. You could call another company and do rack, or now we offer rack, but it's two different products, two different warranties that are competing against each other. It makes sense to just cover it in all. One call, it's the roof. It's one team comes out, knocks it all out, and then you get the warranty packaged in a way that just doesn't exist in the industry up till now, and so. The value of that is pretty easy to sell, and people that are looking to already go solar and need a new roof. It's the timing is usually right on.
And how hard a decision is it for a consumer to make? Let's say they want to go solar and they're considering, more traditional solar panels that are attached on top of the roof, versus a solar shingle that is the roof, and that's a big distinction, and it's some trade-offs. But if you're going to get a new roof, agreed, that's a great time to go solar. Mm-hmm. But what is the relative cost? Is there a difference in the lifespan of that roof if it's a solar shingle versus a just traditional roofing shingle?
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation. So you can't really compare apples to apples in terms of cost in generalities, because every project's so different. But it really comes down to what what value you can bring on that particular project. So it's very consultative, and what are you looking for? What do you need? And the value for this product is really it is both, right? And so the roof and solar, and so it serves both the purposes, and you get the warranties behind that, which is peace of mind and a lot, better service. And when you add it all together, most of the time, the value is pretty comparable. With the better warranties, I'd say, it's kind of it's very comparable in terms of cost. And so it comes down to what the homeowner really wants. Sometimes people are very specific about what they want, and a new product kind of scares them off. But a lot of people, it's a cleaner look, it's new, and they're very excited about going with it.
So if the cost is comparable, then the aesthetics are definitely better with a solar shingle. There's just no buts about it. and we'll splice in some B-roll of the GAF solar shingle here. What other, I guess, considerations are there? Ray, do you want to chime in here from your perspective? Obviously, you're biased because you're the VP of product for GAF Energy, but I mean, what is the roadmap? What is the adoption curve that you're witnessing, and is the day within sight when all roofs, all south-facing slopes of roofs will be solar shingles?
Yeah, so I think Sean hit on a bunch of great things related to the value of the product. And one of the things that I'll say, more solar is better for the world, period. And there's definitely a place for, if your roof doesn't need to be replaced, traditional solar has its place. Bolt-on or rack-mounted solar has its place, right? I want to see a world where there's just more solar on roofs, period. Right. What we think at GAF Energy is that dual value of Timberline Solar being not only a roof covering, so there's no shingles underneath it, it is the shingle, plus an energy generating product, so it's giving value back to you other than just covering your home, is the real key, right? That's the differentiator, that dual value in being able to leverage that single expert rooftop contractor to install it. And so you're getting that peace of mind of there's no two trades that are up on your roof, two companies that are up on your roof. It's one company that can give you a full solution backed by one company warranting the entirety of the roofing system. And so that total cost of ownership, the long-term peace of mind is super important, right? And I think in a long-term future, what the most interesting thing for that we're seeing from an adoption curve is that, we liken it to, and this is a lofty example, but it's true, is I remember a time where I had my iPod in one hand and then my Nokia cell phone in another one. And I was like, this is the way I need to, maybe I'll do a Zune or I'll do an iPod to get the next touch version. And now it's crazy to think about, not having one of these that can do both. And so eventually I think the value of just getting more from that one thing is going to dominate. And that roof replacement cycle, the 5 million roofs that go up every single year, I think just leverages or lends itself to the scale of adoption that we want to see versus, the traditional rack-mounted solar is probably eclipsing 300K a year, maybe 350 a year, something like that. So the pace is slower if you're going to all of a sudden transform a market. And I think we want to be at the cutting edge of being able to ride the curve of what we think is the future, which is solar roofing, that dual purpose, that, iPhone version of solar.
Yeah, I like that analogy. It's all about a single product now, right? The smartphone, and I guess from an installation perspective, though, when roofers start to get their hands on this product, what is their experience? Can they do as many roofs? Because that's a big thing, right? The labor costs of the install are significant, and installers don't want to be slowed down, right? If anything, they want to be sped up. They want to do more jobs. And I mean, the number of rooftops that are installed in the United States is staggering. I'm sure you guys know that statistic. I don't know it off the top of my head, but it's a lot. And so only a tiny fraction of those today are solar roofs or solar facilities, period, right? We're installing about 5 gigawatts of residential solar a year now in the U.S. And And we're going to 10x the industry in the next 25, 30 years. It's a massive, massive growth opportunity. And of course, if we can invent technology that is quicker to install and just as reliable, I mean, PV is very reliable. It's very robust. That's one of the beautiful things about these crystalline panels. They are super robust. There are other elements in the system that are weaker links, the inverters, the wiring, the switchgear, et cetera, et cetera. But those modules are going to be producing at 80 to 90% now after 25 years. So from a speed and ease of use, what comments do you guys have?
I think that what I'll say is that, and I'll let Sean kind of take over from the contractor's perspective. But for us, I think one of the things that we believe, and you're talking about, the pie is getting bigger. There's a place for everyone, but at the same time, we have to understand where the bottlenecks in the ecosystem are going to be. And labor is a critical one for that, right? And so by solving, how do we make this approachable, installable by the same crews, same tools that are installing those roofs today, we eliminate that as a potential bottleneck for us. And so the design is very specific about making sure it's approachable by the rooftop shingle labor force that exists out there today, so that it doesn't slow down things. I'll let Sean comment on, hey, is it working or not? And then secondarily, I think that you're right. PV is super robust, but there's always a better way to do it. And I think one of the things that has come to light in the decade or a couple of decades now, where you're seeing hundreds of thousands of rack-mounted systems on roofs, is, hey, some of the things that are unintended consequences of the attachment mechanism to those roofs are now starting to come to fruition. And so by trying to eliminate those, by making it fully integrated, same waterproofing, same methodology has been tried and true in asphalt shingles for 50 years that the laminate shingle has been out, or 100 years that a roofing shingle has been out, I think was really critical for us in the design of that long-term reliability, durability in the future. But from a labor perspective, I'll turn it over to Sean, and Sean can tell me whether or not we actually hit them on that.
Yeah, I would say they've done a great job of following through on that mission of trying to make it simple to install. I mean, you don't, other than small little measuring stick just to check the line on the shingles, you don't need any other tools. So that's super valuable to not have to go make other investments and get people bought in by having them go buy a bunch of extra equipment. But like any change, there's some resistance, right? People are skeptical. It's going to be more work, and there is more work at first, right? It's new. You have to be careful. You don't want to just be throwing it up there and stomping all over it and whatever moving all over the place. You need to take care to make sure it's aligned very much. So there was definitely some resistance, but for us, it's as part of our mission and part of our core values, it was like, hey, if you want to work with us, this is the type of stuff we will be doing. Mm-hmm. We want you to learn. If we will invest in you, right? And we believe that we're giving you opportunities to grow into the future. And so a little bit slower at first, but I think once adoption sets in and people get the hang of it, there's a lot less friction than people initially think. So you just being able to install it with a nail gun is goes a long way, and then just kind of getting used to some of the labor was like, oh, it's going to take much longer, and they're kind of complaining about it. And it's like, well, how long did the job take? After a few of them, how long did the last job take? And a day. And it's like, well, that's what a roof takes. It wasn't a big system. The bigger you get, obviously, the more complex, the more cuts you're making on the other shingles, and but that's just the nature of a complex roof. But simple systems go in quite simply. And once a team is trained, if you're willing to invest in the training and you have an attitude of growth and learning, and are excited about innovation, it is from getting the shingles on the roof, putting the roof on, it is a pretty efficient process. Of course, you have the electrical side of it, which is a different beast. But for a roofer, we definitely had resistance. We had people that didn't want to do it, but we just we sell them on, hey, you want to be valuable to us at Smartroof. These are the things that you should be doing. Otherwise, you're gonna you won't have a job in 5-10 years. And we're excited to be able to do this with you, and you'll have the support and training from us for you to get there.
The Clean Power Hour is brought to you by CPS America, the maker of North America's #1 three-phase string inverter, with over 6 gigawatts shipped in the U.S. The CPS America product lineup includes three-phase string inverters ranging from 25 to 275 kW. Their flagship inverter, the CPS 250-275, is designed to work with solar plants ranging from 2 megawatts to 2 gigawatts. The 250-275 pairs well with CPS America's exceptional data communication, controls, and energy storage solutions. Go to chintpowersystems.com to find out more. So what is the adoption like? How many installers are working with GAF Energy now, and how many markets is the product available in?
Yeah, so a big part of the tenets of being tied with GAF and the quality around the product is we want to make sure we're always doing things right? Not as fast as humanly possible. There is an element of urgency because we want to make sure that we're innovating and being able to provide solutions that will lead to the market. But our conscious effort is always on trying to making sure that's the highest quality product, the highest quality experience through and through, and that we learn, we iterate really quickly before we all of a sudden put stuff out there. Other companies in the space have potentially just tested out in the wild. We want to make sure we have it ready to go before it ever hits the light of day, right? And so today we're in 16 markets across the country, all along the East Coast, Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, and the Southeast. And then we have the usual suspects across the West, California, the Texas, Colorado, but we're constantly expanding, right? Today, we're probably a little bit under 500 total contractors that are in the GAF Energy program that are moving Timberline Solar. But the opportunity of contractors across the country is much larger, right? There's 8,500, 9,000 GAF certified contractors across the country. But we want to make sure that we scale that up and have the best experience around the product, have the best experience and highest quality around the product. And so we're doing that in a very measured approach, right? We want to scale quickly. We want to be able to meet the demand that's out there, which has been pretty overwhelming. But we also want to make sure we're providing the support and the services to our contractors like Smartroof to make the experience seamless, right? The training aspects, the reteaching of roofing contractors with a product that's familiar, but a product that still is new, right? Has all the same trappings, looks like a shingle, smells like a shingle, installs like a shingle, but it's still slightly different. There's some things that are unique about it because of its energy generating properties. But that's really been the focus for us, is making sure that we do this in the right way to be around for a long time versus short blip. And all of a sudden now we're back to the drawing board as other companies may have tried to do in the past. We want to make sure we're here for the long haul. We put all the effort and the work and the testing and the quality and durability of the product. And we want to make sure that it scales effectively and sustainably. Right? Our president, Martin DeBono, always talks about we want to be a sustainable company. Right? There's many non-sustainable, sustainable companies that are out there. And so I think our focus point has been around scaling effectively versus scaling at breakneck speed.
So let's talk about some of the nitty-gritties when it comes to the installation. I get it that the shingles, and our viewers can see some video of this here, that the shingles are just nailed down just like any roof shingle with a nail gun. And that is the primary tool of a roofer these days is a nail gun, right? They're going boom, 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 boom. You hear this in your neighborhood as the rooftops are being installed. But a solar shingle also has wires. It has connectors. And there are strings then running back to a combiner box and then a home run back to an inverter. And at some point, you've got to involve an electrician. So explain for us, if you would, and maybe Sean, you could start, and then Ray, you can add a few comments on top of Sean's comments. What is it? How does an installation unfold? And I'm particularly keen to address the market of, I'm a forward-thinking roofer, but I'm not a solar shingle installer today. So from their perspective, interested, considering taking the leap, but curious to learn more.
Absolutely. I can start on that. One of the beauties of the product, and the first ever, I think, is that it's deck side up, you have the wiring. So as you're putting it in, you have the wiring right there in the raceways. You've seen it. And so, yes, the raceways are there, but it's also much easier. The wire management is much, much easier than panels. And then, once you get to the top, unless you're going over to the next row, you drop into the attic and go from there. And then, I won't get too much into the technical side. I'll let Ray do that. But the GAF also offers services, so they help you through the permitting, then the electrical, and everything along those lines. So obviously that's a scarce resource, which means they're growing more slowly on that front, but they pick partners that they can work with, and but also provide the electrical service as part of the program. And that allows, again, another barrier to entry. They take out for people looking to get started, for people that they can choose to be part of the program. And that allows us to learn alongside them. But they have the expertise in the specific product. But then the electrical side is a big barrier to a lot of roofers, and the harder part than just the roofing. And even putting up your traditional rack, most roofers could probably figure that out. But then the interconnection and all of that is where you scare a lot of people off. So the services are great in that sense. But you can also, in terms of just like efficiency and install, as you're getting the roof on and you're finishing out the arrays, you can start working backwards up, just in like a traditional, rack mount thing, and work towards, work from the panel to the roof. And so it's not like you have to wait until everything's completely done to get the ball rolling on that. Those are on that side, and we're still learning, we're still looking to, work with JF on the services side and grow with them. And, but it's been pretty easy to kind of get through that work with them, and they're very big support on the technical side.
So is a standard crew doing, 95% of the work though, and then an electrician is involved to do the final wiring to the panel? Or just, I really want to be clear about who's doing what.
The electrician is wiring to the roof.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you have a subset, or are you subcontracting that, or explain
the electrical work?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's essentially, GAF Energy is providing those services as part of the program.
So I'll go into it, Tim, a little bit more in depth.
Great.
And so there's two scopes that are part of a solar roof install. Very similar to, if you're doing a roof plus a traditional rack mounted install, there's the roof scope. So who is on top of the roof? And then there's the electrical scope, which is the wiring from those home runs down to the inverter, down to the main panel. As Sean mentioned, our focus is really on driving the adoption of the rooftop scope through our roofing network and through contractors like Smartroof. And so the program and the product, the focus, what people see is that rooftop product. So the Timberline Energy shingle is designed to be installed by your standard roofer, right? From an installation perspective, that's why some of the design decisions, some people ask like, hey, what are those, the visual feature of the Timberline Solar? That's because we made the conscious decision to put the wiring on the front. Not only because that makes the installation much easier, you're not underneath the panel, you're not connecting things and then making it hidden. It's on top for serviceability and for access. And so that roofer would put down the energy shingles and then do those basic connections up roof. It's all plug one into the next one, plug one into the next one, very repeatable all the way up the roof, and then leave those conductors in what we call a top flashing, right? And that's the end of the roofing scope. They can continue doing the shingles across the entirety of the roof. And by the end of the install of the roofing scope, you have a dried in roof. It's waterproof. Everything can be left on there. And the beauty of the certification approach for GAF Energy was we were the first people to get UL 7103, which is the newest BIPV standard from UL. And that means it's listed as both a building product, period. If you never energized it, it could exist on a roof and it meets all the same requirements as a standard roofing shingle from a waterproofing, from an environmental perspective, from a wind perspective, and waterproofing. All of those are met. And so that makes it very clear that, hey, roofers and our roofing contractors can do what they do best. Sell and install the roof, get that customer back to being watertight, right? They needed a roof, let's get them a roof. GAF Energy provides electrical services and a wide range of services and products. And so Timberline Solar is the product, but for contractors who are maybe looking or have a barrier to entry in terms of the electrical contracting license, we also provide those as a service. And so we have electricians on staff that will complete that electrical scope. We help out with permitting, we help out with design, we help out with all the solar capabilities to keep roofers focused on selling and installing roofs as they build those capabilities in-house, right? And you have contractors like Smartroof who have been kind of trailblazers in the industry of accomplishing both trades, right? And so they'll be probably the first ones to be able to provide kind of their own electrification because they have those capabilities. But to tap into and leverage the 8,500 contractors out there in the network and the 5 million roofs every year, we know that skill set range for that solar capability is going to vary. And the adoption curve of the solar specific skill sets is going to vary. And so we want to make sure we don't create that as a barrier for entry for our rooftop contractors. And so we provide those as a service for folks who need them or folks who need to leverage them right now. And so that's really the split between the two is rooftop scope, handle that roof. An electrician will come in and take care of the wiring from the rooftop down to the inverter and the main panel.
And from a manufacturing perspective, what is your capacity for making these shingles? Where are they made? And how is that going to scale in the coming years?
Yeah, I love it. I think one of the benefits, again, our sister company GAF, they're dominant in the space of asphalt shingles, but they also have a giant U.S. manufacturing footprint. So we've adopted that same perspective. Before it was cool, before the IRA thing came out and everybody wanted to do it, we were already, hey, domestic manufacturing is the way that we want to go. So our first manufacturing facility is in San Jose, California. That's where I am at today. And we have a capacity of about 10,000 roofs a year. But already in progress right now is our second manufacturing facility in Georgetown, Texas, right? Called Longhorn Junction, really adopted that Texas vibe. But that capacity is 50,000 plus homes a year, right, worth of Timberline Solar Energy shingles. So we've been very methodical about, again, that sustainable scale, sustainable company, and bringing online our manufacturing capabilities and capacity to match up with the demand and grow this aggressively, but in a sustainable way. And so that facility, again, combined with the San Jose facility, will represent about 50 to 65,000 homes per year capacity, and we'll continue to grow that as we capture more and more demand and increase our footprint nationally. So feel good, again, about investing in the future. We believe this is the future, and so we're making the right investments to bring that capacity online.
What else should our listeners know about this product, the Timberline Solar Shingle, both from a roofer's perspective and from a consumer's perspective?
Well, I'll let you go first, Sean, and I can give my speech.
First thing I'd say is just kind of, again, I've said at the beginning, but kind of the all-in-one, the warranty is, having the watertight and power production warranty all together and backed by, on the watertight side, you've got the GAF Golden Pledge is just a big win for consumers. And on the contractor side, being able to offer that and know that it's, the relationship with with GAF Energy means that it's backed. It's not just a piece of paper to give to somebody. And we've worked with GAF for a long time, and that relationship is super important. And GAF Energy has adopted the same, mindset towards service and making sure that they take care of their customers, so the contractor, so that they can take care of their customer, and that the relationship there is super important. And that's really the win for contractors and for homeowners, is you have a really strong relationship between the two, and you're not gonna get let down. And so I think that's a big piece, the piece that really sets it apart. And then just it's a much more streamlined look. If you don't like the big panels on your roof, aesthetically, it's a much more streamlined look that's cleaner, more exciting. Definitely, I think gets the Jones effect. People are excited about look what I got, which is exciting. We had a guy ask if we had any dummy panels we could put on the front so he could show it off. The front of his house was like north facing, and he was like, "Jeb, can you just put some over here?" Which I guess theoretically we could have, yeah. So it is cool, a cool thing to see up on a roof and bring some curb appeal to the house.
I think, Tim, on the side of GAF Energy, I think it's that dual value. It's what more can the things that you're getting and putting on your home do for you? Instead of a standard roof, a solar roof, and that integration just makes sense, right? From a total cost of ownership, from a long-term peace of mind, from some of the things that you are not hearing about the traditional products that are out there, might be the thing that is the most value later down the line, right? By combining the waterproofing, having that warranty backed by a 138-year-old company who's not going anywhere, is a very powerful thing for protecting consumers in the long run, right? And protecting your investment in the long run. If something goes wrong, GAF Energy and GAF are going to be around to take care of it, right? We're going to be behind our contractors, and if our contractors need support, we'll be there to support. And again, returning back to the thought process of, at some point in time, people thought having a Zune and a Nokia phone was a great idea in the combination. The same way that I think about it right now, the other analogy is, the integration of Apple CarPlay into your car. It's like, before, let's put on a dash iPad on top of the dashboard, and that's good, a Garmin little thing at the top. And now it's all integrated. And there's a reason for that, because it gives the ease of experience, it gives the ease of use, and that integration is much better in the long run. And so we're going to continue pushing that. More entries into the marketplace is good for everyone. And we just want to be on the cutting edge, and we'll continue to fight and earn that title of that innovation and pushing the market towards solar roofing. So I'm excited about the future. And I think it's a great value prop for consumers, and even more for contractors who want to add more value to consumers that they're talking with every day.
And the technology, Ray, is it SIGs, or what is the exact technology integrated into these shingles? Yeah,
so it's mono-perc, right? So we went with the dominant cell in the marketplace to really capture that efficiency that's been put into that. The cost and efficiency of mono-perc cells, we didn't want to take the technology risk on SIGs, and it's unproven a little bit. And so by, again, that long-term quality, reliability, is we want to go with something that's tried and true versus some of these brands out there that are kind of on the bleeding edge of cell tech, which means there's a risk that might not be around tomorrow. We really want to focus on the innovation on the attachment method and leverage the best of the best from this solar cell technology.
And how long will it be, do you think, before we see this kind of product integrated into commercial roofing? Which is, I'm talking about, flat roofs that are a membrane of, one of 3 or 4 flavors, but is a BIPV membrane in the works?
I'll say this. Where our focus point is, as GAF Energy, is on the dominant roof type for residential roofing. However, when you look at the GAF portfolio and Greater, the Standard Industries, which is the parent company of both GAF and GAF Energy, is they are dominant in waterproofing across the commercial space, the residential space, in Europe, Australia. They do all roofing types. And so it's only a matter of time before we're going and solving for those other markets and those other product categories. But I think the focus and the biggest pie for us to be successful today is around asphalt shingles. So I think it's always cooking up. We have a ton of work on R&D all the time, but our focus is on making sure that we provide the best solutions for residential asphalt shingle market, that segment, and then expand from there, right? It only gives us more opportunity to go beyond that once we're a clear leader in the marketplace for asphalt shingles.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, we'll put both your companies' links in the show notes. I want to thank Sean O'Reilly of Smartroof for coming on the show, and Rey Holmes, the VP of Product at GAF Energy. Thanks so much, guys.
Hey, appreciate it, Tim. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Tim.
Check out all of our content at cleanpowerhour.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Give us a rating and a review on Apple and Spotify. And please tell a friend or a colleague about the Clean Power Hour so that we can all speed the energy transition together. I'm Tim Montague. Let's grow solar and storage. Take care. The Clean Power Hour is brought to you by CPS America, the maker of North America's #1 three-phase string inverter, with over 6 gigawatts shipped in the U.S. The CPS America product lineup includes three-phase string inverters ranging from 25 to 275 kW. Their flagship inverter, the CPS 250-275, is designed to work with solar plants ranging from 2 megawatts to 2 gigawatts. The 250-275 pairs well with CPS America's exceptional data communication, controls, and energy storage solutions. Go to chintpowersystems.com to find out more.